Everybody, thanks for joining data.world's live webinar. We'll be doing a live demonstration of our enterprise data catalog. My name is Brendon Murn. I'm a sales engineer here at data.world. And today I'd like to showcase how our enterprise catalog can help data teams find, understand, trust, access, and reuse the data they need. Throughout the presentation, I'll show the user experience from the analyst perspective. I'll demonstrate how data.world brings disparate data activities and their broader business semantic meanings together into a unified platform. We'll see how this creates an environment for your metadata that aligns with analyst workflow incentives, in turn streamlining communication around your data assets and accelerating data's time to value within an organization. Now, before we hop into a live demo, I'd like to briefly just show the core pillars of the data.world catalog. So you should be able to see my screen now. There we go. I'm getting a notification on the webinar service here. So we'll briefly cover the key pillars of the data.world catalog. One of the key challenges that all data teams face is aligning around the meaning of their data. The data often live in silos, away from the semantic understanding. The first three pillars of the data.world catalog seek to address this. Data.world can collect your various database schemas from your databases, whether they're on-premise or in the cloud. It can collect your BI reports and dashboards, as well as collect your business metadata around your definitions, metrics, policies, etc. Data.world then associates these elements together, creating a map of your data landscape, enabling your analysts to quickly find, understand, and trust their data assets. Another key challenge that all data teams face is to enable their analysts to quickly access and reuse their data assets. This is where the datasets and projects pillars come in handy. Data.world leverages data virtualization to bring in data from a single source or multiple source in the form of datasets. You can actually perform a federated join in memory across multiple datasets, saving you ETL time, a proprietary capability of data.world. Once these datasets are curated, analysts can then explore them, analyze, and combine them into a collaborative workspace called projects. Finally, all this rests on top of a fully modern, flexible, extensible knowledge graph technology. This knowledge graph technology enables data.world to have a very flexible metadata model, which in turn simplifies metadata onboarding for organizations and allows them to query the metadata directly within the platform. This knowledge graph also supports creation of a semantic model directly on top of the data catalog, which future-proofs your initial investment and effort into your data catalog. Now that we've covered the key pillars of the data.world catalog, I'd like to talk about how this unique design strikes at the core of catalog success, converting your metadata from a time-consuming chore into a time-saving, indispensable tool in your analyst toolkit. According to Gartner, through 2022, only 20% of analyst insights will deliver business outcomes. This failure to deliver business outcomes is largely due to a breakdown of communication between the analysts and business stakeholders. This can be distilled down to a lack of adoption of your metadata tool, which properly contextualizes these analysis insights for the larger business. So it does make some sense how the traditional catalog approach would misguidedly focus mostly on the metadata side, saving data access and collaboration as a bonus feature or afterthought. However, the problem with this traditional catalog approach is that it ignores the incentive structures which initiate metadata upkeep from the business users and analysts who rely on it. An analyst's main role is to create data insights and then communicate them to the larger business. Ideally, this communication would align closely with the metadata and the vocabulary and concepts defined within it. Therefore, it doesn't really make sense to have an analyst working in a data silo that's entirely separate from the metadata environment. Sure, if an analyst notices something is out of sync, there's a change in the data, they can certainly switch over to the metadata platform. It's certainly possible for them to switch over to the metadata platform, log in, find that catalog resource or that data resource, determine who the steward is, email them the required change, and potentially even require a meeting about it. But through my 10 years analyst experience at Fortune 500 companies, I can confidently say that we do not do that. Rather, we ping our colleagues searching for the person frantically who last touched that data set. Once we find them, they send us the most recent layout and the most recent version. We store that metadata upkeep task into our do it tomorrow to-do list, which we all know never happens. And then we race forward to email off our results that have management visibility. We make up excuses like, who cares? The metadata is always out of date. Or, we will save it for our metadata spring cleaning effort. And this is important because any mistrust in the metadata can spiral quickly. If your analysts are always assuming that the metadata is out of date, they won't use it. And if they don't use it, they won't update it. And if they don't update it, it'll get more and more out of date, in turn fostering more mistrust across your analyst pool surrounding the metadata. It's a catalog success killing feedback loop with the root cause in analyst incentives. Now enter the data.world approach. So while the metadata and data access have their individual distinct value, bringing them together into the same platform really helps them achieve their true potential. By keeping the data just a click away from the metadata, it ensures its update or its upkeep. By keeping the metadata closely aligned with an analyst's workflows, it incentivizes its utilization. In turn, curbing the far too common mistake of an organization building an outdated, obsolete, dust-collecting metadata museum. Now, let's hop into a live demo environment through the lens of our analyst character, Alicia, and see how the data.world design addresses the core of the issue, analyst incentives. So here we have an email. It's clearly a slide, but it's a representation of the email notification system from data.world. So Alicia might be starting her day, attends the team meeting, and then gets @mentioned by her manager, Peter, through the platform. You can see here, hi, Alicia Austin. Per our team meeting this morning, please familiarize yourself with Samir Nagininajar's work and take next steps as listed in the conclusion and next steps section in the project summary. Thanks. Alicia can then click this link from the email and directly visit the catalog. As you can see, she has 3 notifications here. She was given access to a project, access to a data set, and mentioned in the discussion section of that project. So that's what you're looking at right now. You can see we're a web-based application. If she wants to visit this URL, every space in our catalog is a URL, so she can jump to whatever page she's interested in at the click of a link without requiring navigation. She can click over to the overview section to familiarize herself with this project. So just a level set here, this is a fully curated catalog. Today's demo is going to be about analysts and how they can get value from our catalog. We do have other demonstrations surrounding stewardship, curation, governance, et cetera. So right now we're hopping into the catalog at its fully curated state. We've cataloged the technical metadata as shown on the pillar slides. We've cataloged the business metadata, report metadata, linked them together. We've provided data access through the virtualization layer in datasets with the metadata linked to those. And now we've combined them into a project. So an analyst typically hops into an existing workflow here. You can see the steward is my colleague Samir. And Alicia is trying to understand the project and carry it forward with the next steps. Unfortunately, at other organizations without data.world, this whole process is handled through another system that's either separate from the data, separate from the metadata, or worst case in Microsoft Outlook with attachments, et cetera. And really, when you hand off results that way, there's always some follow-up questions. There's never a complete picture. And I'll discuss how that really doesn't align with analyst incentives to keep the metadata up to date. So Alicia can browse through here, and Samir has given her a complete paper trail with the description, the business problem, analysis and drive data sets. There's a live query here she can click and see results with live virtualization. It's really a living, breathing document. No one's replying to an older thread or having fragmented email chains going around with incomplete membership on each one. Here you have the complete paper trail. You can't reuse what you don't understand. And here there's all the information available for Alicia to click to associated metadata and understand exactly what next step she needs to take. Since we're all analysts on this call, or typically analysts, I'll click into this query and show the the Sql Workbench. It's worth showing because we're going to cover it multiple times throughout this demonstration. Here we have a project directory. So when you create this directory, of course, it's blank. You can link in data sets through this button or link in project files. So it's one way to keep your, whether email attachments are unfortunate sometimes, they're subject to retention policy, or potentially they're not compliant for email, so you have to host them in a separated area. Here we have a compliant project file location where you can have nearly any file hosted here, whether even it's a screen recording from a meeting someone missed, you can just drop it right in the project for them to catch up. As you link in data sets, they'll appear down here. You can see the tables that are included in the data set and queries. You can see the data dictionary gets automatically curated as you link in data sets. And as you scroll down, you have these saved queries where you can click them, have them run, open with your favorite tools, etc. We'll get into that a little later on. But just to paint the context, that's the workspace of the project. And then you expose all that here, which is the souped up Outlook email results handoff system. Whatever you'd like to call it, it's really the end of the data pipeline at data.world and addresses questions in the data and fosters extensible work on top of these projects. As Alicia scrolls down, she can look at where she was initially instructed to take next steps. So we have this using the e-commerce order data set, create an email list corresponding to recent online customer orders less than a week old for handoff to marketing. So Alicia can click into this data set and hop right to the relevant data that she's to use to carry out the next steps. A couple things to cover here on data sets. With my analyst pass, this is definitely what I think is most valuable about saving analyst time. A lot of my time in previous roles was spent doing rote tasks that really weren't exciting activities within the data. And honestly, I feel like it was just a couple steps away from the people requesting those tasks being able to self-service them. And data.world has really shown that it is just a few steps away to self-service. So Alicia has access to this data set, as you saw in that notification when we started. As we scroll down, we can see there are two tables here. So these could be sort of the ingredients to make the dish of e-commerce order. We like to think of data sets as a very semantically defined, curated data set for analytical use. There's nothing more confusing as an analyst than receiving instructions to go do analysis around a particular domain and having to hunt down various data sets from different databases and ETL them to get the most refreshed versions in my analytical platform and then run the report. Especially for something like an order report here, we can see maybe we're an e-commerce company in this sense, and we have a retail order table that comes through one order processing system and an online order table that comes through another processing system from our website. And typically these would be in two different data warehouses. We have to ETL them from the processing system into the refreshed environment. It can just be a lot of over and over again repetitive ETL work. And our federated joins that happen purely in memory, the data is never at rest or cached, is a way to securely save that ETL work and just have the data at your fingertips no matter where it lies in your various source systems. Another thing that saves analyst time here is we have this preview. So a lot of time in prior roles was spent looking at a field, whether it's complete, a clean field, ready for analytical use, its distinct count, its fill rate, et cetera. You can see here we have these two tables. They're live connected to our Snowflake data warehouse. And we can look at any of these fields, click the field type there, and it'll show a quick profile of the sample values, distinct, fill rate, min, mean, and max. Really quick, at a glance way to profile the data and get moving on your task. Another way that you can save analyst time is through our templated queries. So here, maybe you have a business stakeholder who has a meeting on online orders and they need the refreshed extract for online orders for a particular date every week. And they ask you, can you please log in, send it across whatever secure method you're able to send it through, maybe even have to create an SSH tunnel because you can't email it. A lot of difficult hurdles there. Data.world simplifies that directly through the platform. So Alicia can create this query on the Sql Workbench we just showed. She can embed it here in Markdown and then send that business user the link. They can follow the link, request access, which we'll show in a moment. And then the business user can come here and just follow the instructions. So here we have orders by date. There's a date field. You can see there's a grayed out formatting to kind of show how to properly format the date. So the business user can come in, do a more recent month, hit enter. Now the query will run without them even knowing SQL, without them even knowing they ran a SQL statement. and they can hit see all. You can see 1 through 5 records here, but there's 186 total. They can hit see all. And then when the query is ready to go, they can hit download or open with their favorite BI tools. Downloads, if you turn them on for the data set, there's CSV, XLS. You can save it to a data set and project and mention more people to do more extensible work on this data. It's a highly collaborative environment, and it really saves analysts time through that process. Hopping back into Alicia's shoes, though, she's been tasked to use this data set to create a list for marketing. And the list needs to include recent orders from a particular date with the customer email. So it looks like the instructions were incomplete for her. If she goes to this online order, there's order ID, there's date, and there's only customer ID. There's no email data. So data.world can get you to your finish line in many different scenarios. There's the perfect world scenario in a demo environment where, look at that, the steward was able to link the data set right here because the steward maybe preempted this question or has received this question before and can leave breadcrumb trail here for people to see that this data set is often joined to customer data. For customer data, please utilize the following data sets. It's highly convenient. That's obviously the perfect world scenario where Alicia might be able to self-service this information. Now let's go into the messy world scenario, or semi-perfect actually before that. So the semi-perfect scenario is maybe the steward didn't preempt that, or maybe the steward is just lazy and never put that in. So if this has ever been walked before this trail by any analysis or by any analyst, if they've ever done this and maybe neglected to document it here, if they've ever combined this data set with another one in a project, data.world tracks this and automatically curates this related data set section down here. So this is, descending in frequency of use. And you can see that this data set has been joined before to e-commerce customer or e-commerce customer non-PII, which is a convenient way if the steward, lacked the curation effort to automatically get you to where you're going based on that, automatic curation of that list. Now let's talk about the messy world scenario. So maybe the steward didn't document it, and maybe no one has ever combined these data sets before. Maybe they're new. And so the related data set section wasn't enough. Alicia can come down here and look at the customer ID field. It seems like a field that could be used to join customer data. And she can also, if she wants to get even more information on this online order table, click into here and view the table for it. So this is a automatically collected schema from our Snowflake warehouse. You can see that there's a description up top. As you scroll down, there are some columns, of course. You can see that order ID is truly what she's looking for, as well as date. It's of the order transaction. And this customer ID field, unique ID for customer record, used to join customer detail. So Alicia feels like she has found the right field to use to join this customer detail on, but doesn't know where it is, and the steward never listed it for her. Down below, we have this relationship section. So just to kind of bounce back to Analyst Incentives here, you can suggest changes. So every organization tends to want to have a smaller group of authoritative approvers of changes. But the analysts, rather than having to find the steward and send their pigeon up to the tower to get the change implemented, they can simply suggest a change on the fly directly in their workflow, which really incentivizes that upkeep. It's just a click away from the data. So maybe Alicia looks at this table and says, order is too generic. I know there's a online order glossary term somewhere. So she can come in here and suggest a change. It'll show that she's suggesting a change. It won't happen until the authoritative approver confirms it. But you can come in here and search for online. And here we have an online order glossary term. She can click this and add it to the relationship box. Maybe she's worried about order causing a little bit too much confusion. Maybe she wants to list it in a more unique relationship, like this is a parent term would be order and the related term would be online order. We certainly allow that in our flexible metadata model due to the knowledge graph. But for now, in this related box, she can come in here and remove that as well. She can review these changes and say some description and hit save change. And now her save change has gone into the suggestion box. So when she visits this page, she can see that she has pending suggestions and they're visible on the suggestion tab. And you can see here, she thinks this is more accurate. She'd like to remove order and add online order. Once that's approved by an approver, it'll take effect on the page. So now Alicia, hopping back into the email narrative, she's looking to find customer ID and find it with an email table. So she can use our powerful semantic search to accomplish this task. Alicia can come up here. Before I do a specific column search, I will show that. I'm going to show a little more generic search. I'll just put my name into the box and see, kind of show a variety of results that we have available, kind of talk about our search in a general sense. You can see quite a few queries popped up there because I've made quite a few in this demo instance here. We have the tables showing that come through with my name somewhere in the metadata. We have the glossary terms shown. We have some more tables, some data sets that I've created. It's a way to show kind of how our search hits all the different metadata and all the different data assets down to the queries and columns and even the comment layer. To that point on comments, maybe Alicia wants to view, maybe she forgot that where Peter asked her to take the next steps forward. And maybe there was a deadline on it and it's the evening before and she's a little bit panicked. She forgets exactly where, what catalog resource that was in. She can type in something from the comment like that, hit enter, and it'll show up here. And you can see that's where we started. Hi, Alicia, per our team meeting this morning, please familiarize yourself. So it took her till the end of the day. We've all been there and she's able to get there just with our powerful semantic search. But for the column issue, let's talk about how Alicia could look for customer ID, is the way the field was spelled. She can search for that. You can see there's some dashboards that pop up and some columns. She can click into the columns to view those. There's 21, so maybe she wants to add some semantic layering on that. She can come in here and add a semantic qualifier of and email. Now here we see that it returns 2 columns in data sets and a column in a schema. She's probably going to want to click the column in the schema because it's going to have more metadata surrounding it, and I'm sure it links into these data sets. Another way she could have got there is the tag right here. We have email, and she could have clicked email, and this customer email table is tagged with email and has that customer ID. So that's another way that she could simply get there. Or maybe here she wants only the schema columns. Click that, and it'll show up. So at least you can click in here and view this customer ID. It looks like it has the same description, unique ID for customer record used to join customer detail. She can look over here and see it's from Snowflake Night Owl as well. The table is customer email. So she can click into here and see the technical tables surrounding this metadata asset. So here we have the customer email table. It maps customer email information by customer ID. Great news for Alicia. She can look here and see that there is the customer ID with that description in this table, customer email, customer link to their email account. And then here we have the related data sets. So this is a way in the messy world that Alicia can explicitly search for a column, use some searching tags, use some semantic qualifiers in her search, search the knowledge graph, and find the data sets that she needs. Whatever fragment you have in your memory, we try and get you across the finish line with our powerful search. So Alicia can click in here. Since she's using email, she can use a non-PII version. But actually, if she makes a mistake, you can see that we've referenced here, there's 2 different versions. So that's the one with PII. As she scrolls down here, she can see there's customer email, and oh, she doesn't have access. So she needs to request access. Sometimes this can be a painful process. Data.world likes to make it streamlined in the flow of the work, in the analyst workflow. So I will have my other window over here with her manager, Peter, just to approve this request. So I'll just write myself a message, hi. Typically, an analyst would put something more detailed in there, or hopefully it would not get approved in an organization. But I can come over here on Peter's data.world screen, and I can simply approve her permission request. And now Alicia gets a notification here, and you can see you can now view dataset e-commerce customer non-PII. So she simply just has to refresh this dataset, or refresh the browser page, so it tracks her access. And now you can see the request access button has switched to an explore this dataset button. As she scrolls down, she can see a sample table here with customer ID. It looks like a clean field. And then she can come over here and see email, which also looks well populated. Looks like it's perfect for the marketing outreach email list creation task. So then Alicia might want to do some work around this, but maybe the work's already been done. You can look at the related projects here and see any related projects that currently use this data set, or here in the explore the dataset button, if you click the drop down, you can see any projects that are currently made. So I'll click in here. And of course, this is a demo. I'm not going to curate the whole project for you by going new, create project, putting a name in here. We'll make it a little easier on the eyes and go to the curated state. However, just to narrate how that would happen, she would come in here it would start out as sort of a blank document with, she could enter the description in quickly, enter the business problem. She could launch the workspace. link the data sets as shown before, add any project files. Maybe Peter and her had a meeting where they wanted to record it for someone else on a visual paper trail for how this project got started. Once she links in the data sets, you can see the tables are loaded in. She can create this templated query as we showed before. So that templated query, it's quite easy to make. You can just do new SQL query, new template. And here we have a spot where we can uncomment this and create the query. And then we can add a variable here, such as date for the orders by date, or here it's date for the weekly customer order. And then save that, go to the project summary, and drag and drop it in here with an @mention to marketing. So they can use this query with instructions here. Query will pull all emails for customer accounts between the date entered and 7 days prior. So same way on the dataset page, she can come in here and enter that query, and add the URL so that someone in marketing can see it, or they can simply @mention them and they'll see it there. They can come in here and enter that date. March 1st, sure. Could have done June 1st, more relevant, but here we go. So this is from March 1st and 7 days prior. The emails, see all, and they can come in here, open with their favorite BI tool, or simply download the results or link into another project. So it looks like Alicia has another notification here. We'll click this. She's handed off the recent order customer email list project to marketing, and now it looks like Peter is asking her a question about it. So here it says, "Hi, Alicia. Marketing asked me if this project report is aligned with our definition of order." And the glossary page is linked in here. So Alicia can click this and visit the glossary page for order. Now that she's on that page, you can see this is our business glossary. We have the order defined here with the collection of sales linked. There's a description on what an order is. Maybe there was a dispute in a meeting with the execs, an embarrassing moment where you had two different metrics around order. I know, in my time as an analyst, oftentimes there was a strong stress on consistency of numbers in front of the execs. So here we have disambiguation, so that won't happen again. If someone's talking about order, they mean the general sense, not some specific subset of that, like delivered or paid or fulfilled orders. Below here, we have this calculation. So we can see that order is calculated by online submissions and physical channel minus returns and fraud. So that doesn't line up with the definition of order. And Alicia knows that because she just was on that online order page right here and linked it to, or suggested the link to the online order glossary page. So she can click online order submissions, go to that metric, and that'll be related to online order. Or she can click it down here in the relationship section, or she can click directly to the page that she already knows she needs to link, because here the calculation shows online order submissions minus return submissions and minus fraud. And so Alicia can copy this link and make a comment back to Peter replying. So the way she would do that, she could click there or the drop down to go quickly to her recently visited pages. She can go to discussion, and I've added it to my clipboard here, how she could reply. And so she, "Hi, Peter Gibbons, as seen in the calculation for glossary of order, that contains physical channel order submissions. This project report aligns to online order." So really the takeaway here on the efficiency is that, traditionally in a organization without the project's functionality here or without the metadata living right next to the data, you're an analyst working in a large organization, and if you're entry level, a lot of your annual reviews honestly are about better contextualizing your emails to business stakeholders, having more than your manager be able to understand your communication about the analytic insights. And so being able to focus that, in that existing situation, all that energy to get promoted, all that energy to contextualize the results in an email, unfortunately, it's sort of a one-off effort. It's a large amount of energy because people would like to get promoted, they'd like to improve with their role, and in doing so, the metadata is out to date, or it's part of some separated SharePoint or Confluence. You're not sure if the recipient of the email even can request access to it, and so you end up doing these one-off elaborate descriptions of the metadata in your Outlook email. And that's why even traditionally when you're in an organization like that and you get asked to refresh some tasks you worked on a long time ago, you have that little panic moment of, oh, I hope it's not past the Outlook retention date. All my context, all the stuff I need in my memory right now is in that Outlook email. Let me go do the frantic Outlook search. Here, you can link the metadata it's not separated in that Confluence or SharePoint site. You can link it directly in here, contextualize your results, and it's not one-off efforts when you do so. You can actually update the metadata page through the suggest changes functionality, make sure it's up to date, link it in the email of your results. And this project isn't subject to Outlook retention policy, of course. So you can just revisit right back, reference the metadata. Everything is in one consolidated spot for everyone to hop in and collaborate without the unnecessary confusions of emailing spreadsheets, having attachments elsewhere because they're non-compliant in an email, etc. So thank you for attending the live demo today. I hope it was